give a fuck.
Are you sure?
I just don't give a fuck.
Presenting The Art of Not Giving a Fuck with Garrett.
All right, hey everyone. Welcome to a special episode of the Art of NGF podcast. It's my honor to be here again with Robert Scheinfeld. Welcome, Robert.
Hey, my pleasure to be here. Thanks.
All right, great to see you. And so today, what I would like to do is just catch up with Robert on what he's been up to. As you guys might know from the past episodes, the way Robert works is to go out, have a bunch of experiences, and then come back and check in with everybody and share what he's learned. So I figured this would be a nice place and time to do that, and for me also to catch up on what you've been up to. For folks who don't know, Robert's the author of Busting Loose from the Money Game, Busting Loose from the Business Game, The Ultimate Key to Happiness, and then also many online and in-person workshops, experiences, courses, and however you want to describe those. So we can get into some of that and what you've been up to lately as we go through the conversation. So again, welcome, Robert, and happy to have you here. So why don't we start with what have you been up to lately since last we talked?
Well, I didn't always see what I'm about to say clearly, but I do now. That my whole life, literally from when I was born up until about, 6, 7, 8 years ago, something like that, has all been about me going as deeply as possible into an experience of truth with a capital T. And no matter what it looked like at any given moment, that's what was driving it. That's what it was really all about. That was my mission and purpose, to have this experience that I now call ultimate freedom, and then ultimately to share it and support other people. And as you mentioned, the way my journey has gone is that if this is where we start, let's see, and this is the deepest level of truth, my journey was very broken up into pieces. And as you said, I was taken a little deeper, had some experiences, changed a little bit, popped up and offered a debrief, whether it was a book, a course, an event, whatever. And then I was taken deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And for a long time, I knew I hadn't reached the deepest point that was the target for my life yet. The journey had to continue, but I wanted to share what I had discovered so far. So that continued for many, many, many years. And then when I discovered what I call the ultimate freedom experience, I was told by an inner teacher, you could say, lack of better terms, that was me reaching the end point of my journey, and that there weren't going to be any more big quantum leaps. There weren't going to be any, I wasn't going to go any deeper, that I reached the place that my whole life was about, and the rest of my life would be enjoying living from there, and then to whatever degree it continues to happen, teaching it and sharing it with other people. So I created an online course called The Ultimate Freedom Experience, taken from a live event. I do a live event myself at my home 2-3 times a year for a maximum of 10 people where I share this. It's a 5-day thing. Mm-hmm. And then the online course, and then I get invited to go to different places around the world to offer different things, including the Ultimate Freedom Experience. And right now, what I'm spending most of my time doing is going to China, where I have been invited to. This year, I'll go there 4 times. And I've shared, I've done some free events. I've done an event based on the Money Game book. Several times I've done the Ultimate Freedom Experience. We have to do it a little different because it has to be translated. Uh-huh. But I think I've done it there 5 times now. And the plan is for me to go 4 times this year, and things are growing and about to explode there. So that's been cool, because I find it kind of odd, to be completely honest, because I have so much respect and appreciation for the Chinese people and the amazing ancient Chinese teachings and the things that they understood, hundreds, thousands of years ago. I have such respect for that. And here they are bringing me in to help them when they have this rich culture and history, and it seems kind of weird, but it's also a great honor, and I enjoy it. So I think one of these days there'll be an Ultimate Freedom book based on what I do in that Ultimate Freedom experience. But the way it works with me is that something takes me over, and a book gets written, and I just wait for that to happen, and it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that when I was in high school, I thought my dream was to be a novelist and to write fiction, and that's what I thought my life and career were going to be. And then my life went off in a different direction. And I thought, oh, well, but it's come back full circle. So that's the other thing that I'm doing is I'm working on the first in what I project to be a series of novels about a character who goes on a journey similar to mine, but it isn't just an autobiography, and so that dream that I had, I'm 62 now. So that dream was 44 years ago or something, is coming full circle, and that's been a lot of fun too. So that's a quick update since we talked last.
Yeah, that's great. The China thing sounds really fun. I've talked to a few other folks who have spent a lot of time there, and it sounds like just a beautiful place, a very fascinating culture. And I know very little about modern China, but of course I've studied a lot of some of the things you mentioned, the I Ching, and how the certain, I guess people would call them mystical, but certain elements like the I Ching, how they were woven into the culture for hundreds and hundreds of years. I find that fascinating as well, sort of predating modern scientific discoveries, and only now they're connecting the dots,
It's amazing. And what's going on there now is amazing. I mean, it's extraordinary change, and it's an explosion of so many things. And that's part of why I've been invited, is that many of the Chinese people, like everywhere, but it's just there's so much change happening there, so big, so fast, that stress levels are high, and people are seeking answers, and people are seeking truth, and they're in different ways and with different needs. And so that's where it all started for me. Is that Chinese people were looking for some help. And 3 of my books have been translated into Chinese, Money Game, Business Game, and Ultimate Key to Happiness. And they did quite well. So there was a desire for me to come and share. And then we didn't know. I never know if anything that I share is going to interest people, particularly if it's another culture like that. And so when I first offered Ultimate Freedom there last year, I think it was in March last year, was the first time. I didn't know if they would get it, if they'd resonate with it, if they'd get help from it, if they'd enjoy it, but it turns out that they did. And so it's, again, my pleasure and honor to be helping this amazing people at this amazing time with so much change going on there. And I find it, like you said, quite fascinating and fun. Yeah. Made some good friends there, and the people that work with me, my partner, the translators that help me, the people that work the equipment at the back of the room, all this, we're all kind of like family now, instead of just someone's doing their job, which is fine, no disrespect or judgment of that, but everything's just different there, and I really enjoy it and appreciate it. I normally would not commit to going somewhere 4 times a year for 2.5 weeks. That isn't my preferred lifestyle, but I am, because it's been an amazing experience there.
Yeah, and those are some serious flights and everything too. I mean, that's a real commitment, making your way all the way over there 4 times a year. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, actually, I've been inspired by that too. I remember reading, even in Business Game, when you were talking about reforming your team, and it was like, well, basically you're going to let this happen, and then it will form around you as you move through into phase 2, phase 3, and onward, that these things just start to occur in ways that are, I guess the way I experience it, is more deeply right than anything I could have imagined ahead of time or planned for. And that's been happening in my own life as well. It's just the people I work with are more like a sense of family and a sense of rightness that's on a deeper level than when I would try to arrange it from a top-down way in my head.
I understand.
Yeah, it's fascinating how that works. Something, let's see, Will wanted to ask, and William, well, I guess what I was going to mention is I do share a lot of your works with my various clients, and it'll be obvious at times where they're at. So for some people, it'll be busting loose, and I can tell that it just comes up suddenly in mind, or I'm reminded of it, and then they need that step. Someone else is ready for ultimate key to happiness, and then someone else might be ready to dive all the way in and go for the ultimate freedom course. And it seems like each of those steps meet people wherever they're at. So for some, they'll go through the whole process. Some people just read the busting loose and they leave it at that, and then they sail at that level. And I find that fascinating, the way you're describing the steps. I relate to that. When I look back, it seems like, and you said at first little steps, but during the experience of those, each one was like a dramatic and radical explosion of everything that was before it. And then it was like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. Could it really be like this? And then suddenly the next one dwarfs that one.
Yeah.
And so on.
It's been an amazing journey.
And I'll often forget that sometimes other people need maybe more steps, sometimes fewer steps, but that each of their journeys, they can benefit from coming back and telling the stories of how you've gone through that process. Do you find that with people? I mean, when you meet someone, do you still recommend, the Busting Loose books, or do you find that appropriate at each level, or are you just full on with the Ultimate Freedom course now?
Well, in terms of what I focus on every day, there isn't any Busting Loose online course or anything available on my website anymore. Mm-hmm. So I'm not actively pursuing those kinds of things. I don't teach that stuff anymore unless somebody invites me, which has happened in several countries. If somebody says, what should I do? I don't give advice like that because I'm very clear on the fact that I don't know what would be best for them.
That's great.
So what I say to them is, and some people give me very detailed questions, but if somebody just says, hey, you got 5 books and you've got this course and that course, what do you think I ought to do? Right. I just say, expose yourself to the stuff, go to Amazon or whatever and look at the books. Go to my website, go through the video invitation for Ultimate Freedom, and then wait. And whatever is best for you, if anything I offer is, what I offer is not the right path for everybody. Something will pop and you'll feel, it won't just be like you were saying before, thinking, well, maybe I should get this book, or maybe I should. That to me is what I call mind noise. But ultimately, when the noise circulates and completes itself, something's going to happen, which means an action. You're going to order a book. You're going to sign up for this course. You're going to do whatever, and that's what's best for you, What ends up happening? And I don't know the answer to that. I don't get that many questions with somebody asking me what do I think that they ought to do anymore, but if I do, or there are people that'll say, hey, you got Ultimate Freedom online and you've got Ultimate Freedom live at your house for a small group. Which ones are those? Which one should I do? I say the same thing. There's that old saying, different strokes for different folks, and it's really true. And what do I know? I don't know what would be best for somebody. And then some people say to me, well, Robert, you did what's in the Busting Loose books. You used those tools and you did that for many years. And in my language, knocked out a lot of cloud cover, started to experience a lot of the sun of truth. And then you went deeper, 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 deeper. Do I need to do that? Do I need to use those tools for multiple years and embrace what's in those books before I can? And in the beginning, I didn't think that would be true, but I didn't know the answer to it. But then I found out that's what some people do. They follow a path similar to mine. They're in my sphere of influence, and they do this, and they do this for a while. Then they do this, and they do this, and they kind of follow the path I did. Other people have jumped right into Ultimate Freedom. They don't know anything else about anything else that I've taught or the happiness book. And I just trust that I in the book, I called Who We Really Are, Consciousness or Expanded Self. I've had different labels at different times. Now I call it True Creative Essence. That's my label for who we really are, source, creator of everything, whatever. And none of this is up to me, and it isn't up to you, and it isn't up to them. And it's just a question of waiting to see what happens, very much like what we do when we're watching movies or TV shows or reading novels. You know, the author's written the story. We turn the pages, we keep watching, we find out what's going to happen. We don't have anything to do with it, you know. So I just let people self-sort themselves, and I trust that whatever they do for however long they do, whether it's my stuff, someone else's stuff, a combination. The only thing I discovered is a lot of the stuff that I share, starting with Busting Loose, is incompatible with a lot of the other stuff that's out there.
Mm-hmm. Incompatible
unless
with other
something
systems
gets really
and approaches.
distorted, they just don't fit. You can't cobble them together and do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Some people think that they do.
Yeah.
They can fit it together with something else, but I've discovered in general that doesn't work, and it especially doesn't work with the happiness stuff, the phase 3 stuff, or the ultimate freedom experience. It's a very unique journey. It's a very unique beast, and it isn't compatible with most other things.
Yeah, I think so too. In my own experience of it, is there was, during what I would call the seeking phase, it was trying everything, looking into everything, even if it was contradictory. I didn't even know it was contradictory. It was just, let's do anything possible to try and seek something. Maybe at some point I became aware I didn't even know what I was seeking. I kind of knew why, but I didn't know what I was hoping to find or anything. And some point toward the end of that, a lot of different things happened, and I came into your sphere of influence, the Busting Loose, and then Ultimate Happiness shortly thereafter. But before that, I thought it all fit together and was believing this kind of common lies that I see out there that are like, all the paths lead to the same place. There's these platitudes, but they were all on a mental level, not on an actual experiential level. There was no data behind them. And then after the experience of ultimate happiness, ultimate freedom, however you want to describe it, then there's kind of a period of not knowing what to do, or the old ways of navigating life were completely broken. There wasn't anything new replacing those. But now almost everything is exciting. Like if I go to a yoga class, because it's not because I think it's going to make me okay, or something amazing is going to happen. It's because it's so simple. I just want to do it, and I enjoy the whole experience of it. And it's an end in itself. Whereas it used to be something where I thought it was going to lead to this place or to this enlightenment or to this thing. So before,
Or it needed to.
Or that it needed to.
I'm not going to do it unless it's going to help me achieve some goal, you know. Yeah. But that's one of the discoveries that I made. It's all about having unique experiences. That's what this whole human thing is about. Right. There's a famous I don't know where it originated, but there's a famous spiritual saying that says it's about the journey, not the destination. And most people recognize that, but they don't live as if that's true. But that's really the truth. And I say to people a lot right now, because it's really interesting. I don't even know. I think it's something like 80, 90, $100 billion are spent every year on people going to movies all over the world, you know, and then there's more billions with people reading novels and exposing themselves to other kinds of stories, you know. And if you say, why are so many people spending so much money going to movies and watching stories on TV and reading stories in books? Why? It's because they have unique experiences when they're watching or reading the story.
Yeah.
And they aren't trying to if you read a nonfiction book, maybe you have a goal, but when you're reading a fiction book, a story, you're watching a movie, you're watching a TV series where it's stories, there isn't any goal. You're not trying to get anywhere. Right. You want to have experiences. Yeah. And that means thoughts and feelings and sensations. And that's what we want. And most people don't realize it, but if you go to a movie, you know this from the book. You go to a movie, and at the end of it, you go tell all your friends, "Oh my God, that was a great movie. You got to go see that." What you're really saying is, I had a lot of unique experiences while I was watching that movie, the biggest one of which is feelings. And I felt a lot in a unique way, and that's what we mean. It isn't that it was a great movie. Right. It was that I had these experiences, and that's what we want, and that's what this whole human experience is all about at its core. It's about who we really are, which I now call true creative essence, having unique experiences as us through our unique experiences that we have every day. And that's the only thing that matters. Yeah. It's not about spiritual growth. It's not about becoming enlightened. It's not about learning lessons. All that can happen. And those are unique experiences, but that's not the goal. The earth is not a school. And you have to graduate, learn your lessons, and then go off to the cooler places in the universe, when you graduate from this school, That's one of the things I discovered. And so the only thing that matters is unique experiences. And when you can't do this from here, but when a shift takes place, and you know that that's what the truth is, and that that's the only thing that's important, it changes how you do everything, including in the ways that you talked about. I'm going to a yoga class because there's going to be a unique experience, and where it goes, it goes. I don't care. I don't have a goal. I don't have an agenda. Or if you have an agenda, okay, fine. Maybe that'll happen. Maybe it won't. We'll see. I'm going to go. We'll see what happens. It changes everything, and it ripples through it, and there's so much more to it than what I just said. But that's one of the unique discoveries that I made, and there's so much out there that to me just isn't true. And I believed it was, and I accepted, and I used the techniques, and I tried to achieve these particular goals, and then ultimately, no, there's something else. There's a deeper level to get to, and I want to find out what the truth is with a big T, what it's really all about, and how things really work, and how and why things get created that happen in my life every day, and what's it really all. And I'm going to go deeper. Nobody seems to be telling me the complete deepest level truth, and I got to find it. That's what my life became about.
Yeah, that's excellent. One thing I really enjoyed that came to mind while you were saying that was the Brutally Honest Tuesdays. When you were doing those, I think was that about 11 videos in the end, I think, or 13. I don't remember what it came to, but something like
I did it for a while.
Yeah, it was a fun ride.
It was
really.
fun.
I remember there was 3 questions that you would have people ask to deal with the idea that about manifestation, about holding an idea in your mind and then making something appear or come true. I really enjoyed those 3 steps. It was being brutally honest with yourself. I think it was asking yourself, why doesn't it always work? Number 1, if this is true, then why doesn't it always work? Second question was, then if it does work, then why don't all the negative things happen that we think of? Why isn't every plane crashing? Because there's always going to be someone on the flight who's very much focusing on the fact that they're terrified the plane's going to crash. And then the third, I forget what the third question was. Remind me if you recall, but there was a third one.
Well, the first one was, everybody has had experiences of holding positive things in their most dominant thoughts, and they don't happen. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, they don't happen. It's rare that they do, if you really look at it as an objective scientist. Second is what you said. Everyone's had experience of having dominant negative thoughts, fears, whatever, that something bad was going to happen, but it usually doesn't. And then the third one is, which blows it all out of the water, is everybody has had experiences of things they would label as positive or negative that they never thought about, ever.
Exactly, yeah.
And so if it really was coming from your thoughts, if you were really creating your own reality, and you could change it by using all these techniques, those 3 things. Now, why don't all the negative things manifest? There aren't a lot of people that'll give you a good reason for that one. They'll tell you something. But the something isn't you, and it isn't your thoughts. It's your subconscious mind, it's karma, it's something else, but it's not you. Why don't the positive things that you want happen? Then everybody tells you, again, subconscious mind, karma, limiting beliefs, whatever. They have a lot of stuff to say, but when you say, how can something really amazing happen or really terrible happen that you never thought about? Their jaws just dropped. They got nothing.
Yeah.
And if something comes out, it would be, whatever, mission, purpose, karma, whatever. But it isn't that it's coming from you and that you're creating your own reality. If you really dig beneath the surface and you're an objective scientist and you look at this stuff, that's the party line, I call it. No disrespect to anybody. All that stuff's beautiful and it serves its purpose, and I have no judgment of it. Is it true that that's how the world really works? And that's how reality gets created? No. And if you look with brutal honesty, you can see this in your own life and in other people's lives. Most people don't look, or they have this overlay of the thing they've been taught and they see what they want to see. But if you really look clearly, and this is what happened to me, because I kept having these really good things happen that I never thought about, really bad things happen I never thought about. And I realized, all right, there's no relationship between my thoughts and my intentions and my goals and what's happening in my life. So there's got to be something else going on that's causing this, and I want to find out what it is.
Yeah.
It isn't what I've been taught, and it isn't what I believe. There's got to be something else going on, and I want to find out what it is. And this is the kind of genesis of my whole journey, is my life being broken and me being unhappy and me not being able to live the kind of life I wanted, looking for answers, not finding them in the typical places, which ironically my grandfather told me, if you remember that conversation, he said to me, what I'm talking to you about, there's other stuff out there that sounds like this, but I'm talking about something completely different.
Yeah.
And most people don't know this, and the few people who do don't talk about it. And so I had that on my journey before I even started, but I still tried all the party line stuff. But if you really look, and this is the people that ultimately find their way to me, they've had a similar journey most of the time. There's something about their life that isn't working, business or personal. They've tried these things. They've come to a similar conclusion, and it's like, okay, if I got to put in time, if I got to put in energy, if I got to put in money, I'll do it. But this time it needs to be the big truth. And it needs to really take me to that, and no more of this bullshit about these magical techniques that I can use to create anything I want that don't work. And again, when I say bullshit, I just am being a little dramatic that it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Me trying these things and it not working, other people trying these things, it's not working. These are amazing experiences that are supportive to our journeys. All of this, every teacher, every teaching is beautiful and perfect and plays its role, including in my life, for a long time.
Yeah.
That's a separate question from, is it accurate?
Yeah.
Is that the way the world really works? And so much of that stuff that's out there, that's not the way the world works. And it's not a theory or a philosophy. You don't have to take my word for it. If you look, you can see there's got to be something else going on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I demand of anyone that I work with, is that they at least verify even anything I have to say or you have to say or anyone has to say in the world. At least make sure they go and test it, find out for themselves until they reach some level of satisfaction with their own direct experience of it, rather than stopping at any point to believe some set of ideas or some set of standards or some set of expectations, or not to be told that they've reached something, but to know for themselves that they've gotten there. And it doesn't matter if it contradicts everything else that they thought they knew, but it has to be verifiable by the individual. Otherwise, I don't see what's going on. I don't understand what else is going on if they're just accepting an idea of something.
But I did that.
Sense. Yeah, I did too. I know.
You did that.
Did that, and it was actually
the evidence
great.
is very convincing of a lot of this stuff, but
it is. Yeah.
That's all part of the game, and that's all part of the journey, that there's success stories and miracle stories for just about everything.
Yeah.
Not just spiritual things, but marketing things and leadership, whatever it is. There's always miracle success stories. We talk about why that's the case in the Ultimate Freedom Experience, because it's all beautiful and brilliant. But my journey was, I'm going to go deeper. I'm going to find out. I need to find out what's really going on. A lot of people don't care. The vast majority of people on the planet don't care about what I call the truth with a capital T.
Yeah.
My father didn't. My mother didn't. My brother doesn't. My sister does to a certain extent, but she didn't have the same need that I did. Most of the planet doesn't care.
Yeah.
But the ones who do, then I have a unique ability to help them. And that's something that has become my mission and purpose, and I enjoy it.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful.
And what happens is amazing.
Yeah.
But it isn't everybody's path, or it isn't everybody's path now, whatever.
Sure. Yeah. And do you feel like this is what your grandfather was hinting at, that he was there, or you
I don't know.
That? Okay.
I don't know the answer.
Sure.
The truth is, I had very little contact with him, and then he died so suddenly. So I get asked that question a lot.
Mm-hmm.
My suspicion is what I call ultimate freedom experience and everything that's contained within that. My suspicion is he did not have that experience.
Okay.
But I could be wrong. I don't know.
Sure.
But if analytically I look back on certain things that he said and certain things that went on in his life and other kinds of things, I can make a story. I don't think he got to that same place, but I don't know, and it doesn't matter.
Right. It doesn't matter at all. Yeah.
He still was one of the happiest people that I've ever met, and he still was this amazing guy that had amazing achievements on so many levels, including business and money. And those talks started my journey officially.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it started the moment I was born, as I said, that's when it became conscious that there was something else, and that's where all the power and the magic was. That's when I was 12, that's when it became conscious that there was a path like this. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Interesting either way. And yeah, I do see how that, he was a core part of you going deeper in any case. So yeah, it is a fun story. Well, the question I had from Will, this is from Will Griffin, a longtime friend of mine. He's in England, and also he's a reader of your books and studying a lot of that kind of stuff. And I feel like he's either gone all the way or going all the way. And his questions are, does Robert experience the life of his character in a non-volitional way? Is Robert aware all the time of himself as a character, or does he sometimes forget and fully identify with his character? I guess he's differentiating between personality and something else.
I would say most of the time, my language for that is being in a truthful with a capital T relationship with what's really happening all the time, inside of you and outside of you. He's labeling it as being a character in a story, and that's part of it. Most of the time, that experience is conscious,
Okay.
lack of better terms. But the way I really answer this question is like this. And again, I'll use the example of a movie. Something very funny happens when you go to a movie. And you can, it's true if you're watching at home or on a device, right? But I'm just going to use the example of being in a theater, but it doesn't matter. It's the same thing anytime you watch a movie.
Right.
The whole time you're watching the movie, you're sitting in a chair. There's other people in the theater. There's a screen. What's up on the screen isn't real. It's all an illusion. You know this. It's always there. But at the same time, at times, it disappears. You get so wrapped up in the story, which is part of Will's question, you forget that I'm Robert sitting in a chair watching a screen and it's an illusion. But you didn't really forget it. The knowing of the truth of it is always there. It's there, but it's not there at the same time. It's this weird, I call it mental magic trick. Mm-hmm. So an argument could be made in those moments you forget and you get so wrapped up in something. An argument could be made, but I would say no, you always know.
Yeah.
Two contradictory things coexist at the same time. So, and if you're in a movie and you get so wrapped up in the story that you forget that you're Garrett and you're sitting in a theater and it's an illusion and they're not real, whatever, nothing bad happened.
Right.
Your level of consciousness is not dropped. You're just, you're deeply involved in the experience, which is the whole point of it. So underneath his question is probably, if you're not experiencing yourself as a character all the time, then you're not at this higher level all the time and you still have work to do. Right. You with me?
Yeah.
That's not true. Mm-hmm. Even with what I call ultimate freedom awake, living in phase 3, experiencing this, I call it the perspective point with capital P's. It still moves. There's still times I get so wrapped up in stuff that I forget there's Robert and there's this body and, just like with the movie, but it isn't really forgotten. That the truth's always there, just like it is when you're watching a movie. And most of the time, the perspective is, And there's more to it than that that's in the ultimate freedom experience. But the perspective point is aware of all of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm true creative essence shaping itself into Robert having this experience, and Robert's a character in a story, and here's what's happening in the story. I don't say that to myself, but the experience is very much like that, and it goes deeper than that. Most of the time that's present, and sometimes it's like the movie, and it's like what he said. You get so wrapped up in something that you forget some of that at the same time that it's always there, but it's not a loss of anything, and it's not anything significant. It's just a different experience in that moment, and when we have those experiences, we love them. If you get so caught up in something that's happening in your life, you're really purely immersed in an experience, and most people would say they love that.
Yeah.
It happens when people write, it happens when people work, it happens when people read and watch stories. It happens when we work out. There are moments that we just forget. This is me and whatever, and we're so completely immersed in what's happening, and most people say, I love that experience.
Right.
Being in the zone, whatever you want to call it. But it's so most of the time there is full conscious awareness of that comes with the ultimate freedom awakening and the ultimate freedom experience. Sometimes there is being so wrapped up in that some of that is not consciously, I call it an inner space in your mind, whatever you want to call it. And it doesn't matter.
It reminds me even of the roller coaster example. I mean, there's going to be a moment where there is no coaster, there's nothing, there's just that feeling, the drop, the fear, the overwhelm of the situation. And then I can even remember getting out of a roller coaster and being like, oh, wow, let's do that again. Oh, my God, that was amazing. And then back onto it. And again, terrified as it's climbing, and it's going to go down the slope again. And it feels great.
Yeah, if you could analyze, if there was some device that could analyze whatever the language is in a roller coaster ride, in a movie, how much of the time are you completely aware of everything? And how much of the time are you completely wrapped up in what's happening and you're not aware of these? You'd see that it bounces all over the place.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean anything. But in a lot of spiritual teachings, and this is a phase one thing in my language.
Yeah.
Oh, no, if you don't sustain that all the time, you're not there yet, and you still got work to do. Right. Or you had it and you lost it. Somehow you got the golden prize and then you screwed up somehow and you lost it. And now you got to go get it back. There's all this, I'm being a little heavy-handed there, but there's a lot of that kind of stuff out there. And we go, oh, God, I screwed up.
Yeah.
Had it and lost it. I did something wrong. What am I supposed to do now to get? There's all these kinds of self-judgment, self-attack, not there yet. And ultimately, so much of it's is noise.
Yeah, yeah.
And as you said before, and this is all over the ultimate freedom experience. Ultimately, these questions, the biggest questions, not all of them, but most of them, can be answered by just looking at what's actually happening in your experience every day.
Yeah.
It's not memorizing a theory. It's not learning something, being able to get an A on a test or talk at parties. You just look. Like the example I gave you. What happens when you're on a roller coaster ride? What happens when you're in a movie that you're really loving? What happens when you're reading a story in a book you're really loving?
Yeah.
And what happens is sometimes I'm Robert sitting in a chair, holding a book, turning the pages, reading a story about so-and-so, and here's what's happening in the story, and I know it's not real, but I'm enjoying it. That's all there. And sometimes you're just totally caught up in it. And when you are, do you perceive that as bad? Do you wish it was different? Do you say, you shouldn't have gotten completely immersed in that thing. You should have been remembering that you're sitting in. It doesn't happen.
Right. It's amazing. No one ever says that coming out of a movie. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard that. Like, oh man, I lost myself in there. What a bastard. I've never heard that. Never felt that. But people do the same when they get immersed in, as Will says, in their own personality or their own experience. And then, like you said, they're judging themselves thinking it was negative somehow. But on what qualifications? On what? Even the guidelines?
Well, there's different stories. Some people say you're not being present in the moment and you have to be or you aren't not, or some people say if you really were, whatever, enlightened, illuminated, whatever, awakened, that wouldn't happen. And since that's happening, you're not. There's all kinds of different stories, but ultimately it comes down to something negative about you or the way you're doing something or your experience is not enough, whatever.
Yeah.
This is classic phase one stuff. I bought into all of it for decades.
Yeah.
I beat myself up. I went, oh shit, I had it and I lost it. And I'm not there yet. And I thought I was. I was having some pretty cool experiences last week, but now this week I'm all upset again. And so I guess, and there's so much more to this.
Yeah.
And you can't think your way there, You can't talk yourself into this kind of stuff. You can't technique your way. A shift has to take place inside of you at the deepest level that ripples up and changes your actual experience.
Yeah.
You can't technique your way there, and you can't think your way there, and you can't say, oh, well, I'm beating myself up right now for not being enough. I'm going to stop.
Yeah.
I was never able to do that. Some people claim that they can, but most people, the truth is, you can't control that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What comes up, and you're stuck with it,
Yeah, there was really no control of any of that stuff in my own mind looking back. It was all of the stuff just came up. The judgment, the need for seeking, it was like on rails. I mean, there was no stopping it. But looking back now, at the same time, I'm grateful for even the delusion of it all, because it led to all these crazy adventures. And I mean, they couldn't have happened without believing certain lies and moving. The whole thing was a perfect machine in a way. There was nothing out of place. Even the fact that I thought everything was out of place was a perfect component of the experience. That's what's super fascinating about it now, is looking back on how exquisite the whole thing, the wholeness of the entire life has been, and how dark it seemed at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know that dark feeling very well.
Yeah, and then to know there's nothing wrong with it at all is phenomenal. It's just, and you're right. There's no. And
again, no disrespect intended. I'm going to use an example of Tony Robbins. No disrespect meant to him. When I was involved with his teachings, which is how I got my start, sharing his stuff, he had a saying: everything happens for a reason and a purpose, and it serves me. That's true.
Yeah.
But if you're pissed off about something, if you're hurt about something, if you're angry about something, and you say to yourself, oh, well, this is happening for a reason and a purpose, and it serves me, it doesn't really help. It's still true.
Yeah.
But you can experience, when you get down to the deepest level and a shift takes place, things can ripple up and out, and you experience it that way. You don't try to talk yourself into it. Negativity doesn't come up, and then you try to push it down by telling yourself a pretty spiritual phrase like that, even if it's true.
Yeah.
You just change. And ultimately, that's what happened. And the other thing I realized on my journey is so much negativity was coming up in my life all the time about everything. And I wanted to find a technique that I could use when negativity came up. I could push it back down or change it or whatever else. I wanted a technique like that.
Yeah.
There isn't one that works reliably or consistently if you look with brutal honesty and you're an objective scientist. But I also realized, well, what if there was? What if I had a technique or 3 techniques or whatever? Every time I got angry or hurt or afraid, I could use a technique and I could then turn it into this or make it go away or whatever. Well, here's what life is like for most people. You're going about your business, something happens, and a thought appears. You're going about your business, something happens, and you're feeling however you're feeling, right? And this happens all day, every day. So even if there was a technique that you could change or do something with, you'd be using the technique all day, and you'd constantly be fighting this stuff that's coming up.
Right.
You with me?
Yeah.
And I realized that's not what I want. Even if there was a technique, I call fighting unwinnable wars every day.
Yes.
And then I realized that's not the answer. The answer is not to find a technique to make the bad go away.
Right.
Or to win these fights. And again, it was deeper, deeper, deeper. Why are these thoughts coming up when these things happen in my life? Why am I feeling the way I'm feeling when these things happen in my life? And why do some of the feelings feel so bad? And why do some of them feel so good? What's really going on? And the solution is for the bad not to come up, not to have a technique to do something with it once it's up, because it's always going to come up, and it does for everybody.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of stuff that happened with me. But for years, I tried to find that magical technique that would work. And I tried things, and I tried to just win all these wars. And then one day I realized, wait a minute, I never win this war.
Yeah.
There's no technique after decades that every time something bad's happening, I can just do this. And some people claim they have this. Mm-hmm. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. My bias is nobody has that, even if they say it. But that's my bias. There could be somebody that does, or a few people, But I never found the technique. And then I realized, like I said, even if I did find one, that doesn't really solve the problem, because I would just be using it all day, every day, or most days. I don't want to do that.
Right. And in some sense, you're even removed from the depth of the experience itself, now drawn into that inner battle even further, which the original goal was to not be stuck in that same place of fighting that battle. And now it's increased the war.
But this stuff's hypnotic.
Yeah.
And it's seductive, and it's by design. It's not because we're stupid or there's anything wrong with us. This is all part of what I call phase one. Yeah. To get caught in these kinds of things, and to look for these magic formulas, and to hope that they'll work, and to be in denial about how much they fail. And I've had some pretty funny experiences of people that are in complete denial. And it's fine. That's the way they're built. It doesn't matter. But in a conversation of 5, 10, 15 minutes, they'll completely contradict what they've said. They'll say, no, I'm really able to blah, blah, blah. And I'll say, really? And I'll just listen to them, and then they'll tell me, I tried the technique, it didn't work. I wanted this, I didn't get it. I wanted this, I got it. It isn't what I thought it would be. It wasn't fun. I didn't enjoy it. And then they'll completely contradict themselves, but they'll come right back and say, but I do create my reality, and I really can change this, whatever, manifest what I... To my bias, nobody's really like that.
Yeah.
And you see this in biographies of famous people. You see this in biographies of successful people. You see this, you pull back the curtain on all of the teachers teaching attraction, manifestation, reality creation things. You look at their life, no disrespect. My life, it just isn't true. Mm-hmm. But if you're completely hypnotized, mesmerized by it, you believe it is. You've got, you're ignoring all of the failure and just focusing on a couple of times. That's fine. It doesn't matter. That just wasn't my journey.
Yeah.
My journey is I don't want to be deluded or accepting things that aren't true. I wanted to know what the big truth was, and I wanted to live it and breathe it 24/7, no matter what's going on. And the other thing I realized that I didn't realize for a long time, I wanted to do it in a fully conscious day-to-day state.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it under the influence of some substance. I didn't want to do it in meditation where I had to do something to go somewhere. In my normal functional life, I'm driving, I'm talking to you, I'm watching a movie, I'm talking to my kids, I'm talking to a friend, I'm with a romantic partner. All the time, experiencing the truth is what I wanted. 24/7, no matter what, even when things that you would have once called bad are happening, that you're in a truthful, that's what I wanted. I didn't realize this for a long time, but then it became clear to me that was the journey for me.
Yeah.
And that means anything that's not the big truth has to go. Yeah. And you got to keep going deeper till you discover it and experience it. And as you said, you have to experience it. Understanding it doesn't do any good. I live in Charlottesville, Virginia, and some people know Thomas Jefferson lived here and was a very big, famous character here. And his home is now a tourist attraction. And when you land in our little airport here, there used to be a thing on the screen, a quote from Thomas Jefferson that knowledge is power, right? And it is in some things, but it isn't on the journey into truth.
No.
Knowledge doesn't help you. It's an interesting first step, but it ultimately doesn't help you. It has to drop down to experience, like you said before. And it doesn't matter whether you can get an A on a test or talk about cool stuff at parties. Yeah. You have to be experiencing it. And that's what happened in my story, and that's the kind of teacher that I wanted to be.
Yeah.
I wanted to help people actually experience it once I knew what it was and was experiencing it, not just give them a bunch of more cool ideas or some new technique or whatever else. And the other thing too, just so you're clear, I think you know this from the happiness book. In the Busting Loose books, there are 4 tools.
Yeah.
You could call techniques. They're things that you do. This happens in your life. You use with the Ultimate Freedom Experience. There aren't any tools.
Yeah.
There aren't any techniques. There isn't a to-do list. It's all about taking you down to this deepest level and facilitating and supporting this shift being made that then ripples up and out and changes everything. But there aren't any tools. There aren't any techniques. There isn't any to-do list. It's about taking a journey that changes you by going through it, which is what happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a wonderful experience as well. And I see the second half of Will's question sort of underscores what you said. So I'll read it for the sake of that, for people to hopefully get a sense of what you're driving at over and over with this point. And he asked, after the first question, is there a trigger which can reliably transition out of the identification? So there was the verification of what you said, that he's looking for some way, and that there's an assumption underneath it that you have to get out of identification with the story to arrive somewhere else, or to come up higher, or to achieve the imagined goal.
Well, a shift does need to take place.
It does, yeah.
But my bias is it's not the kind of shift that's talked about so much.
Mm-hmm.
It's something else, and it happens in a different way, and you can't do it, and I can't do it, and I didn't do it, and Will can't do it. But it can happen.
Yeah.
My language is it can happen in your story, but you can't do it, and you can't technique your way there. But anybody that has spent any time in what you'd call personal growth, personal development, spiritual development, success techniques, whether it's mainstream or metaphysical, it's just drilled into you relentlessly. Here are the 5 steps. Here's what you have to do. This is the magic formula, and you have to do it, and you have to do this. And some of the teachings, you have to do it for thousands of years across multiple lifetimes before you're going to get the prize. But there's a formula. There's something you have to do.
Yeah.
And so, all right, so give me the what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we want this.
Yeah.
And it's very frustrating for certain people that come through the Ultimate Freedom Experience, because their minds, what I call their mind machines, from the book, they want me to give them a to-do list. They want me to give them a trigger, like Will said. They want me to give them a technique. Every time this, that. In order to this, do this, which I did in Busting Loose, and I did in other books. This is just a different journey in the way that the truth awakened in me, Ultimate Freedom awakened in. I didn't do any of it. It just happened on the journey, which is the way that this particular journey works.
Yeah.
You take the journey, things happen, shifts get made, you don't do it, you become aware of it, and one day you notice, I'm different. The way I'm experiencing everything is different, and I give people a context for that. And it's one thing that's very different about what happened to me and what happens when I help people on the journey, because I didn't know what the goal was. I didn't have a target. I knew I was on a journey, and I knew it was taking me into the big truth with a capital T, but I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know what the experience was going to be like, so I wasn't measuring progress.
Yeah.
And I'm not there yet, because here's the definition, and that definition's not happening.
Yeah.
When I share the Ultimate Freedom Experience, I give some people previews of things to come.
Mm-hmm.
I tell them what can happen and how it works and these kinds of things. And so their mind machines track progress. Oh, Robert said that Ultimate Freedom Awake means this, and that's not happening yet. And so they have a little different, but otherwise the kind of stuff that I set into motion when I offer that experience, the same kind of thing that happened with me. But it isn't technique driven, and you don't make it happen. It happens.
Yeah. Yeah, and even with that, I think that the idea of what it will be like, even if they're hearing it from you and then coming up with ideas in the mind machine about it, or the ideas are appearing, could still be dramatically different from the way they might process it after the shift has taken place. Oh, wow, I thought this was what he was talking about. Now it's like this. Even though the words are the same, the realization of the words is very different. Just something simple like you describe what it's like to go swimming in a river to someone who's never been in water. They could think they understand everything about it. And then after they're in water, they'll look at those same words and go, oh my God, now I see what Robert was talking about. You know. So it's really far apart from a mental conceptual framework. I mean, at least in my experience of all of this,
But it's one of the hardest things to let go of. And some people go deeper into that like I did than other people. And it's harder to let go of it because they run everything through this. Yeah. But it can't get you there.
Yeah. Well, I think a good question to end with here is Will's final question, and see what you think of it. Can Robert describe how it feels to act in the world while fully cognizant of the fictionhood of his character?
Not really. But what I say to people is this, and it goes much deeper than this. It's true of experiencing any story, right? A movie, a TV show, reading a novel, but I'm just going to again use the example. When you watch a movie, you can watch a movie about anything happening to anybody, and you can ultimately enjoy it. It can be a tidal wave that destroys a village and kills thousands of people, and you can ultimately, at the end of the story, say, I enjoyed that movie. It can be aliens invade and they blow up New York, you know? It can be that somebody got embezzled from or stolen from or raped or murdered or whatever. And we can enjoy these things. There's a different relationship that we have when we are the reader or the watcher of a story. Mm-hmm. And it isn't a technique. You don't go to a movie and do something to intentionally have a different experience. You just do. And we could go a lot more into this, and that's what the Ultimate Freedom Experience does partially. But the only way I can answer his question really is to say it's almost identical to what happens when you're watching a great movie, reading a great story in a book, watching a great story on a TV show, except it's deeper. Mm-hmm. But it's almost identical. So the way for him to answer his question is next time he goes to a movie or reads a novel, lack of better terms, be a little bit more mindful. Mm-hmm. What's your relationship to the main character or the main characters? If they're angry as the watcher of the story, what's your experience of their anger? If an alien blows up a building in New York City, and you're aware of this as the watcher of the story, the reader of the story, what's your experience of it like? Mm-hmm. It's like that when Ultimate Freedom's awake, except it's deeper. And what I mean by deeper is this, but again, we could talk for hours about this, but I'll just plant a seed. When you're watching a movie, you can become very bonded to the hero or the main characters. And you get an idea what they're thinking and feeling. You know, if someone's angry and they pound their fist on a table, you know they're angry, right? Or if they say to someone, God, my mother said this and I just got so pissed off at her, you know that they're angry. Yeah. If something bad happens to them and they're experiencing pain, you know that they're experiencing pain, but there's a distance. You know that they're a character in a story. You know it's not you. And it's happening to someone else, and there's a distance. With this experience, you as Garrett, me as Robert, the kind of thing he's asking about, it's deeper than that because you actually become the character. Yeah. You actually think the thoughts, feel the feelings, experience the body sensations. You don't just get a glimpse of it from a distance. I call it a total immersion experience. Mm-hmm. And it's deeper than that, but so much of the way that he experiences and everyone else listening or watching to this, great movies, great novels, great TV series, stories, it's exactly like that, except it's deeper. And some of that's in the happiness book, and others aren't. It's only in the ultimate freedom experience. But there's a different way of experiencing everything, but it's almost identical to how we experience great stories, except it's deeper. Yeah. It's total immersion. But no words that I could give him would do him any good. And even with what I just said, go to a movie, be a little bit more mindful, that still can give you an intellectual idea, but until it actually happens in your story, in your life, I call it ultimate freedom awakens, and you actually know what it's like you said before about the river. Mm-hmm. It doesn't do you any good. Mm-hmm. And the mind can come up with endless questions, endless yeah buts. Usually doesn't say, oh, I understand, but even if it says that, it doesn't. You know, in the ultimate freedom experience, I show the movie City of Angels.
Ah, yeah.
And there's a scene where there's an angel who's not physical, right? Never been physical. And he asks a woman to describe what it's like to eat a pear, the taste of a pear. And it's like you were saying with the river. And she can say, it's salty, it's sweet, it's this, it's that. She could talk for 20 million hours. And even if the mind said, okay, I understand, it doesn't. But you bite into it, you know. So he's got to bite into the ultimate freedom experience to really know what it's like. But as a crutch, it's almost identical to how he experiences great stories, whether he reads them or watches them, except it's deeper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great answer. I really enjoy it. So if folks want to go deeper with your material, where should I send them? Is it still robertscheinfeld.com? Is that a good place to start? Yeah.
And they can go through what's on the main page. Or up at the top, there's a link for a free video masterclass that'll take them deeper and then also let them know about the ultimate freedom experience and the options live or online. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff that's available, and there's a free video masterclass that I created, I think, last September. That'll go a lot more deeply into the kind of stuff we've been talking about here and sketch a picture of what's possible and my journey, and then it invites you to consider whether the ultimate freedom experience live or online would be appropriate for you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which, again, people will know.
Yeah.
If it's right, when it's right. And the answer is always, I just want to leave it with this. We talked about it way back when we first started. The answer to all of this really is wait and see what happens. And that'll answer the question. Yeah. If someone's meant to travel this path, it'll happen. Yeah. It doesn't matter how much noise there is, and it'll happen in the best time and in the best way, no matter what the mind says. And if it's not, it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a beautiful thing about this. I'm glad we started and ended on that same note. It's perfect. Yeah.
Cool.
Very good. Well, it's nice to see you, Robert. It's always good to catch up. I hope you have a lot of fun in China. I know you will. And maybe someday our paths will cross in physical life. If not, I hope to see you again here somehow. And yeah, wish you all the best, man.
And you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye for now.
Take care. Thank you.